We have Erin and Kerry here for us to talk about 5 practices in Storytime. Erin has an MLS from the University of Kentucky, currently works as a youth librarian at St. Bernard branch of the Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library. And then we have Kerry as well. Get your profile here. Also earned her MLS from Kent State University and currently works as a youth librarian at the Mariemont branch of the Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library. So they're going to talk to us about the 5 practices in Storytime. Thank you both for being here.
Hi, thank you for having us, and welcome everyone to Every Child Ready to Read, 5 practices in Storytime. The Every Child Ready to Read, or ECRR, is an initiative that's been used throughout public libraries to help library staff educate parents and caregivers about skills and strategies they can use to help children get ready to read. So originally, the ECRR framework focused on 6 pre-reading skills that children need to develop in order to prepare to read, but when it was revised in 2011, the ECRR2 has an updated framework of the 5 practices that caregivers or parents and children can do together to get the children ready to read. So those 5 practices that we're going to talk about today are reading, talking, singing, writing, and playing. And we're going to walk through how to promote each practice in Storytime. But first, Kerry is going to talk about the brain science behind the 5 practices. There we go. Wait, we go back. I went too far. There we go. Oh, go back.
Okay. So when a child is born, they have all the nerve cells or neurons that they're going to ever have. And so when you're born, you're going to have everything, neurons, all the neurons you're ever going to have in your brain for your whole life. So we need to know about brain science to help us when we're looking at how children are developing and learning, because how the brain develops impacts a lot of how those children are going to develop and learn how to do these early literacy skills and to be able to successfully succeed in reading and being successful in school. So early experiences definitely have a huge impact on the brain and on children's development. And so I'm going to show you, we're going to talk about how the synapses work and why those are important. So we have 1.4 billion synapses in this picture here. And so we break that down a little bit into a synapse, which is a new connection between nerve cells. So if you think of your hand being a cell, you have all your fingers coming out as the dendrites, and those are going to connect. If you connected your hands, those would connect to other dendrites and create a synapse, which is the connection between them. And so you have those connections, and then if those connections are repeated, so if you're constantly hearing a certain language, you are going to start making stronger connections as that language, you hear more of that language. Or if you're constantly hearing the song Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, you're going to make a connection that's going to be strong hearing that Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And so as the connections are stronger, they're going to stay and they're going to be permanent. The ones that you don't use all the time, maybe you heard someone say hola to you or bonjour, and you've heard it 1 or 2 times and you made this little connection, but then you didn't hear it again. So that connection would break and that would be pruned. And so it would go away and other connections would become stronger and stronger. And so as kids are doing this, as they're experiencing their world and learning different things from you and their parents and their caregivers, they are making stronger and stronger connections, but the things that are not being reinforced are going to be pruned and go away. I believe we have one more. Yes. So you can see on this slide, we have the synapses that are getting pruned. So 36 weeks gestation, then newborn, and then 3 months, you can see there's starting some things happening. 6 months, things are going bizarre, going crazy. And then in 2 years, you're seeing there's a lot of activity happening in the brain. And you can see the darker shot, the lines of the connections, those are the ones that are going to be the stronger connections. And the little thin ones are most likely going to be ones that are pruned unless they're strengthened. And then you can see later on at 4 years and 6 years, the brain has pruned a lot of the connections that were made at the 2-year point. And that helps your brain work more efficiently and using only the information that you need or learned at certain points and made those connections really strong. And this is why we repeat a lot of our stuff in story times, a lot of our concepts, a lot of our songs, a lot of our books and things like that. We want to repeat those so that we're making those strong connections in the little baby's brains. And so we also have a handout in your things about how brains are built. I would recommend reading this. It's really great because 90% of brain development happens from birth to 5 years. That's why this early time is so important for little ones. This is where they can, like when they're first born, they can learn any language in the world. But then as they only hear a certain language, they're going to make connections for that certain language, and all the other connections are going to fall away. I believe that's within 6 months. And just as their vision's improving and things like that, that's going to help them take more information in to their little brains, and the more they hear things. And so that birth to 5 years is the most impactful time for that brain growth and development. And that's why it's so important that we are getting these skills into the giving these skills information to the parents so that they can help their little ones develop all these connections in their brains. We're gonna do this?
Yes. So this serve and return is a big way that the brain develops in children. And there's this adorable video, maybe you recognize this comedian, but he and his child have a back and forth. Even though the child is pre-verbal, every time the child says something, the father responds to it positively. And then whenever the father pauses, the child says something. We aren't able to show that video just because of the setup here, but it's just an example of the everyday things that parents and caregivers can do to help their kids build those connections. And we'll talk more about serve and return.
If you have a chance to see this video, it's Kingston's the little boy. Kingston. And Pryor, I think is their last name.
Yeah.
And just DJ Pryor.
Yes.
Just look for that on YouTube. You'll find it.
I'm sure it'll be the first.
on Google.
It's got millions of views.
It's a great video, and Kingston is so adorable. He's older now, but he's adorable.
Yeah, it's a few years old this year. So the 5 practices, the word practices is a very deliberate choice because they're things that need to be done over and over to reinforce the learning in the child. So, and it's something that's done regularly and it becomes a habit. So we want to encourage, as we practice these things in story time, we want to encourage the parents and caregivers there to continue those practices at home. And because they are the child's first teacher and they're going to have the most interactions with the child. The other reason to emphasize the practices is that you don't need any special knowledge of, literary terms or literacy terms to be able to do these with your child. And so that it really is a caregiver focused approach. They can be done with all ages of children, and you don't need any special tools. You can do that anywhere, at the grocery store, in your car. And, you can demonstrate ways that in story time, you can do these things while reading, but also while doing other activities throughout the day. So of course, the first practice that we'll talk about is reading, and it definitely will never go away. The most important way to help children get ready to read is to read with them. And that emphasis is on reading together, and we'll see how that blends with the other practices like talking. But you want to make sure you get the child involved with the reading and not just reading to them. Having them physically interact with the book is great when you're doing the one-on-one, or having them verbally interact with the book as you go. So reading is a big way to increase children's background knowledge about the world, and also to increase their vocabulary, the different words that they know. It also, reading with your child helps them understand how books work. So when they see you holding the book a certain way, turning the page from right to left, reading from left to right, like they can pick up on these things while watching a caregiver read to them. And it can be fun in story time to like hold the book upside down and and you might get giggles from some of the older kids because they realize that you're not doing reading right, so they can learn those reading rules or habits as you go through. And reading encourages imaginative thinking in children and problem solving in their real world. So the biggest criteria for picking a book that you're going to read in story time is that it's a book that you're going to like. Because if you like it, then your enthusiasm will translate to the kids. And that's something you can share with parents as well. Like there's no, you don't need to find that perfect special book that and be worried about, if you don't pick the right book at the library, my child's not going to want to read. Like just expose them to a variety of books, and as long as you have enthusiasm for it, they're going to have enthusiasm too. But of course, it does help to know, as we're talking about brain development and things, it does help to know certain characteristics of books that are appealing to each age based on the brain research and what kids can focus on and understand. So we'll talk about that. But for story time, you also do need to think about a book that works well in a group setting. So that can limit some of yours, like Harold and the Purple Crayon is one of my favorite books, but it's a tough story time book because it's pretty small unless you get a bigger version. So you do want to think about being in a group. And then again, you want to think about the age level when you're picking in story time. But I think it's important to communicate to parents how you picked a book, and that you picked a book that you like, that you thought the child would like. So in terms of reading to kids of all ages, for baby books, we do recommend board books to the parents. Now, board books, again, don't always work in story time because of the size, but you can show examples and then read aloud like a bigger example. Babies like to pay attention to bright colors and high contrast. So if there is a simple picture on a bright background, that is going to appeal to the baby more than lots of pastels or busy things going on in the book. So you do want to think about the visuals in the book to keep the child's attention on the book. You want simple illustrations, but also babies love faces. So if you get either photographs or drawings of faces, babies are more tending to look at faces, and then you want to expose them or share with them diverse children, so faces of children and adults who look like them and who look like people in their neighborhood, in the world. Nursery rhymes are a really big component of reading with babies. Don't assume that the children or the caregivers in your community know all these nursery rhymes, especially if you have parents who English is a second language. They didn't grow up reading the Itsy Bitsy Spider, so it might be old hat to us, and you might think, I need to have variety all the time. But it really does help to do those classics of the nursery rhymes, and a lot of them you can find so many online resources of different finger plays or puppets and things that go along with the classics because they've been around for so long. So that's always a great place to start with baby story times. And you don't need to Miss Rachel came up in the chat. I don't know. Do you know Miss Rachel?
No, I don't.
No. Is that okay? I have to look that up. She does books with babies. But you don't have to stick to board books. So, like books that have those same like simple illustrations can be really good for babies. And then, of course, we'll talk more about in the playing and singing and how you want to have a lot of movement and interaction in your story times with babies. Toddlers as well want to get up and move around. Toddlers like the bright pictures. For toddlers, when you're thinking about, one big criteria I use for story time books is how many words are on the page. So if you have a younger group, then you only want 1 to 2 sentences on a page, and you don't want more than maybe 10, 15 pages in the book, because if it's longer than that, you might lose the child's attention towards the end of the book. So think about how much they can pay attention to. Toddlers also like a really easy to follow storyline, one with maybe a single character facing a single problem, and then they overcome it. Toddlers love repetition because they like catching on to, oh, that's happening again. So, the classic, there was an old lady who swallowed a fly, and all those, and how you just keep repeating the same things over and over. Toddlers love that, and it's really good for their brains and the connections. It's really fun when you find a story that has a repeating line and you get the kids to anticipate the line and say it with you. That can be really a good way to involve them in the reading. Toddler time is a great time to branch out to nonfiction, and one of a book series that I really like that I brought, and I know it'll be like backwards on your screen or something possibly, but there's Bullfrog Books, and this is Bullfrog Books, has a Spot the Difference, cheetah or leopard, they have rabbit or hare. And I even learned from, there's turtle or tortoise. I had to learn that because that comes up a lot in kids' books. I don't know why. But what's the difference? And then these books are really great. I bring them up as a great example of nonfiction because they're really simple. Okay. Sorry, I keep getting distracted by the chat. I shouldn't. I'm like, someone else is moderating the chat. Okay. But they're really simple pictures on, again, a bright background. So that's really good for toddlers. And then again, just a few words on each page explaining the basics. Another thing that I kind of bring up, because this is something that I learned the hard way, is that you want to preview books about predators to make sure they don't have any of those like bloody pictures. And I accidentally had to flip real fast past a tiger eating an animal. So the name of the book series, yes, is Spot the Differences, and it's Bullfrog Books. Bullfrog Books is what it says down in the 10. And we do have a handout with the titles of all the books that we're recommending, but I think it might not have gotten into the handout packet. So we'll have our emails up at the end on the last slide while we're taking questions. So if you want a copy of the recommended books that we have, or just a list, write down our email and email one of us, and we'll get you that, because like I said, I think it didn't make it into our handouts. So then preschoolers, the same, can enjoy the same things as babies and toddlers. You can also add in some more complex vocabulary. A great way to think about vocabulary and what words you're going to focus on is to have a little Post-it note and put it on the back of the book or inside, on the edge of the book, so that when you get to that page, you're sure to point out that word. And you want to kind of look through the book and see if there's any word that the kid really needs to understand to be able to understand the story. That's going to be a book where you want to pause and talk about what that means. And then you can model for caregivers as well, like stop and ask the child if they know what that word means, or if they can use it in a sentence, to make sure they really understand that word, or if they don't understand it, that they're learning a new word and they can maybe understand it after they've read the story. And yeah, that's, you still want to, oh, yes.
There's just a question about what is the name of that book series before you move on.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we said the Bullfrog Books, Spot the Differences is the name of that series. So as we talk about, or as we read with kids, another important practice that we can model related to that is talking. So obviously children learn language by listening to grown-ups and by joining the conversation. So that's going back to that serve and return. And even during story time, even if you have a big crowd, you're not going to be able to maybe hear the answers of every kid, but you can still model and ask those open-ended questions and just have the kids shout out the answer to you. And, it doesn't matter if you hear the right, you can always ask a question that doesn't even have a right answer. But like, I was reading a book today in a story time about Munsters in their bedtime habits, and they have a little snuggle toy. And I just said, oh, what do you snuggle with? And all the kids could just yell it out at me. And it didn't matter what they said. I was just like, oh, okay, and then you move on. So just like having that serve and return and modeling those open-ended questions is great. conversations between adults and children can actually change the child's brain. And it really helps build their vocabulary, hearing adults use different words and getting a chance to use those words back. Even like we said, like pre-talkers, even before they're actually saying words, toddlers are making vocalizations, and you can, respond to those as though they said a real word. And another thing to point out in your story times is that if the parents or caregivers speak a different language or language other than English at home, that is still going to grow their reading skills. So they can reading books in other languages, talking in other languages is some of those skills are going to translate to when they learn English in school. So just encourage parents, like, even if you're not proficient in English, keep reading to your kids, read in your own language, because that's going to build up those pre-reading skills just as well. So again, make sure that children have lots of opportunities to talk, follow the children's lead, answer their questions as they talk. And a big thing is wait time. So a lot of times as adults, there's been like studies, like adults only take a few seconds to answer a question, but children, especially toddlers, can take a lot longer. So I even count in my head. If I ask a toddler a question, I'm going to count to 5 in my head before assuming that they're not going to answer it, because they might just stare at you for that whole time. and it can be uncomfortable if you're not familiar with that's how toddlers are. Or I even try to encourage, like in our weekly story times here, we have both toddlers and preschoolers, and the preschoolers will be very verbal and very interactive, and the toddlers are just sitting there watching everything. And I try to encourage parents, like, just because your child didn't interact or do anything in this story time doesn't mean they didn't get anything out of it. Keep bringing them back, and eventually, like, it takes a lot of repetition before kids feel comfortable interacting. So I just try to encourage that.
And I can add really quick to the response time for toddlers and babies. It uses, to respond to someone's question or to someone's statement, it takes 4 parts of the brain to respond to someone. And so their brains are just developing, and so they haven't mastered and got those really strong connections in that section of, or being able to use those 4 parts of the brain together efficiently. So that's why it takes them longer. So sometimes you'll say, somebody's like, wave bye-bye, and then they won't wave bye-bye until they're out to the car, So it's just because it takes them that long to go, oh, I need to do this, and it has to jump to a different part of the brain, and I got to do this, and then it jumps to another part of the brain. So it's just, that's what's actually going on in their brain, is it takes 4 parts of the brain just to be able to respond.
Yeah. So that can be a big part of when you talk with parents and adults in your story time, to give them that wait time. And also another thing with talking is making connections between what's happening in the present and what happened in the past. So you can do this. A way to do this is, if you read multiple stories or sing multiple songs, make connections. Talk about how this song is like that song, or this book is like that book, and get children to make connections between the present and the past, and that can help, again, those brain connections in their brains. Or that was redundant, but those brain connections. So again, there's this other video of talking back and forth, but this video emphasizes a father and a son, and the father is making a meal, and he's getting the son to touch every piece of food, and he's explaining the words of what he's doing, chopping, slicing. He's explaining words. So again, to communicate to parents and caregivers, you don't have to set aside time to say, oh, I'm going to teach my kid language during this time. It can be throughout your day, and any time that the child is in the room with you doing chores, all those little things, just talk through what you're doing, and that child will pick up the language of what you're doing. Oh, we've been talking for 20 something minutes, so we're going to do a 1-minute break. It is up to you if you want to actually do this, but this is a fun little thing you can do. Whatever the first letter of your first name, if you want to get up and take a minute to do that activity. So I'm E, so I would walk like a bear. I don't even know what that would be. What would you do, Kerry?
I would march like a toy soldier
soldier
for a count of 12
Yeah.
with straight legs.
These can be fun. We got this from, whatever this website is, but these can be fun things to do in your story time. If the kids are getting antsy, get them to get up and do a little break.
And it helps you learn the letter, the first letter of the name.
Yes, kids love to learn their letter. If you have a little alphabet carpet, they're always like, I want to sit on my letter.
Yep.
So I'm going to take a
So kind of take a stretch if you need to stretch. Get a drink.
And pop any questions in the chat. Kim is monitoring that for us, even though they do pop up, which kind of. And these practices don't have to be in any kind of order, obviously, but so the next one we're going to talk about is play. And play has been called the work of childhood. Play is really how kids learn how to do life through play. They do pretend play, dramatic play, it develops their imagination. A shoe can become a magic wand. A box can become a house. Their imaginations really can go wild with play. Helps them think symbolically and develop oral language. As children play, they're putting into practice what they've seen. So you might see, if you went to the grocery store and then you come home and your kid plays putting away the groceries, they're learning how to interact with their environment. Dramatic play involves kids making up stories as they play. So this is one thing you can emphasize in story times if you have puppets or little felt board pieces. So after you do a story, you can have the kids interact with you and do the story on the felt board to reiterate what the story was and to act it out on their own. Like some places like to just put out toys or puppets at the end of the story time and have it open for the kids to play with. So in play, whether it is guided or independent, is part of learning how to read because it's building that language, and it helps playing helps children build a sense of self-confidence and accomplishment, and it can motivate them to try new things, like try reading new books when they get to that, and it can motivate them to persist through something difficult, which learning to read takes persistence. So there's different kinds of books that encourage play. There's books about play. A type of book that I really love and I've done with every ages from toddlers to preschool to even the kindergartens is interactive books. And one series that I'll just point out is Don't Push the Button by Bill Cotter. And these are really fun, a lot of interactive books. If you, they'll have the child do something, direct them to do something, like don't push the button. And then they'll say, actually, what happens if we pushed it? And then something will happen in the book, like he'll turn yellow. And this can be really good to, again, get the kids talking as well, like what happened? And they'll tell you what happened when you pressed it again. Oh no, he got spots. I'll tell you, kids lose their mind at this book because they really think that they are, or I don't think they really think, but it's just the concept of affecting the book and having things change with every turn of the page is really exciting for kids of all ages. And you can find, again, we have a list with like different interactive books in this series. Bill Cotter has several, and then here Kerry has a few.
Hervé Toulet has quite a few. There's this one, Let's Play. It actually says play. There's Mix It Up. And this newest one is big. It's Tap, 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 Dance, Dance, Dance. So it's kind of fun. It's got lots of fun stuff going on in there. Woo, it's slippery and all this stuff like that. So it makes it really, really fun. And I like the bigger format because it's a little bit easier for larger groups too. And then there's also this other series by Richard Byrne. The first one is This Book Just Ate My Dog, but this one is We're in the Wrong Book. So that's a really good series, and there's something about a cat and other ones, but they're fun ones that are interactive and fun to play with the kids. So do you want me to do this? Yeah. Okay, so another way you can play with kids is you can make a little prop, like rather than just doing the narrative skills and having them retell the story, you can use books that have a repetitive phrase. So Chicken to the Rescue, if you want to make the screen bigger on our video bigger, that's fine. So Chickens to the Rescue, and I'm going to read just a few pages and I'll show you. I've got these little flags that I made, and they're just fun. It's little things with a popsicle stick, that laminated piece of paper that the kids in your story time can hold on to, and they can wave or hold up in the air when you read the repetitive phrase, and they can say it with you. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this series. You probably are. It's been around for a while. On Monday, Farmer Greenstock dropped his watch down the well. And then you'll give them a little bit of a little bit of a notice that they're going to have to do this. Then you go, chickens to the rescue, and they'll hold up their little chicken. And then you can keep going through, because every other page is going to be chickens to the rescue. Those are some chickens, said Farmer Greenstock. On Tuesday, Mrs. Greenstock was too tired to make dinner. All right, is everybody ready? We're going to do, my pages are sticking together, chickens to the rescue. And so you just go through the whole thing, and it's just fun for them to anticipate and to play along with you, and be able to start saying chickens to the rescue. Sometimes they can't say all those words. But anyway, they can at least wave their flag up, so it gives them a little bit of gross motor, a little bit of fine motor, holding onto the stick. So just a great way to play with them with an easy, quick book. So it's perfect for toddler, perfect for preschool, and they can really enjoy being part of the story. So are we on to me already? Okay, wow, that was quick. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is writing. If you have something to write on, could you write your name with your non-dominant hand? I'm going to give you a couple seconds to do that. See how that feels to you. So while you're doing that, I'm going to start talking a little bit about writing. So reading and writing go together. Both are ways to represent spoken words and to communicate information or tell stories. Children become aware that printed letters stand for spoken words, and as they see print and they're used in their daily lives. So one of the suggestions that we do for story time too is, and tell parents, is that you occasionally want to point to the words in the story, especially if there's like larger print. You want to point to the words in a story. Like for Chickens to the Rescue, I would probably point to the words chickens to the rescue, just to show the kids that you're not just reading the pictures, you're reading the words and the print that's on the page. That kind of helps get them used to that writing part. And to know that there's like something, there's letters shapes being made, and there's letters that you're able to read. And then we want to encourage little kids to start holding a pencil or a crayon or something like that, and just be able to scribble a marker, a washable marker, to be able to scribble on paper, to get those fine motor skills going, but also just to give them experience with drawing things and moving the crayon or the marker along the page, to start getting that kind of control and that motor control for being able to write. And they can even draw you a picture, and you can say, tell me about your picture, and then you can write in letters what it means or what the picture is, and that helps them. So if you wrote with your non-dominant hand, how did that feel? Did it feel weird? This is how it feels when little kids are starting to learn to write and use a pencil or grasp and hold a crayon or a pencil or a pen or marker or whatever. And so the way we can support this skill in Storytime is to do finger plays. So you can do different kinds of fingers, like finger plays. I do some songs that have signs. So like they have to make a fist to make a pumpkin, and they're supposed to flick it, but a lot of kids can't flick, so I just have them tap, but they're isolating that one finger, and they're also gripping and moving their hand into a fist each time we're doing this. And then orange, for like orange pumpkin, we would do squeezing orange, like an orange into your mouth. That's orange. So that helps them move those muscles in their hands, helping them learn how to write, and get those muscles developed so they can learn to write. they can do, you can do like a tally for like meaningful feedback. So like you could say, how many of you like this, and have them have a little thing that they can hold up, like a little sign that's smiley face, or how many of you don't like it, have a little frowny face. You can have them make their marks. So name tags are a great way to do this. You can allow them to do their own name tags, and then you can have the parent write the real name in there if you need to, but have them try and do that. Have them try to do the name tag. It makes it personalized to them, and it makes them feel like they're in control of, oh, this is my name, and I can put this on me, and I actually was able to write it. And it gives them that reinforcement that they need. Have a take-home sheet with lines where they can trace letters and trace shapes and trace lines that are just going all squiggly all over the place, because they're getting that control over their hand using a writing utensil is going to really help when they do actually have to make their own letters without lines. You can have them label parts of a drawing that they made. You can do just different things like that. You can also use books to highlight writing. So one of them is Rocket Writes a Story. My favorite I didn't have a copy of is Bunny Cakes by Rosemary Wells. Max and Ruby are both making cakes for their grandma, and Max wants these red hot marshmallow squirters, and he doesn't know how to write letters. So Ruby's like writing this list and sending Max to the store because Max keeps dropping all her stuff, and he just draws pictures or he tries to write his name, or he tries to write the list, and he can't get red marshmallow squirters through to the grocer. And so he's like, I need this. And so he finally draws a picture of the red hot marshmallow squirters, and the grocer's like, oh, you need red hot marshmallow squirters. And so he's like, yay. And so they show like his little paper where Ruby's written her list, and then he's trying to writing his little red hot marshmallow squirters words on there. And it's just a really great way to demonstrate how writing can evolve throughout a child's early life. And this is another one. Look, I wrote a book. There's Little Plane Learns to Write, different things like that. So there's other ones that you can highlight when you're doing writing. You can also do, like if you have a playtime afterwards, or like stations that you do after story time, you can do Play-Doh. You can have them roll and squish, anything that's going to help them move their hands and fingers and stuff like that is going to really help them with those building those muscles in their fingers, so that they can hold a pen correctly or hold a marker correctly and a crayon, and just being able to do that. Just even having a coloring page out where they can use crayons and stuff is a good way to help encourage that, or even just blank paper is a fine way to introduce that fine motor development. And so now we're on to singing. Oh no, we're not. There's other ways to make marks. That's fine. I just forgot to read.
I think you went.
Yeah, so I did all that.
Yeah.
Okay, so singing. So it doesn't matter if you know how to sing. It doesn't matter if you sing well. Just do it. And that's what I tell parents, and that's what I tell everybody else. You don't have to have perfect pitch. You don't have to be an opera singer. You just need to have fun doing it. So you can do things like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And that helps with fine motor too. But so you can just do fun things like that. So I can't see you, but let's all sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Here we go. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. So this is just a great way to get them to move their hands, but you're also singing. Singing breaks up the words into smaller parts, and it slows down language so they can start learning the different parts of the words. And it's going to give them the connections in their brains that they're going to need when they start to learn how to sound out words, or learn how to read a word and be able to say, okay, that is this sound and that is that sound, that kind of thing. And so singing is going to be a really good thing, and you really want to repeat those songs multiple times. Clapping along to rhythms is a good way to keep them going, and to help them hear those smaller sounds in words, smaller parts. Music involves the left and right brain. So even if you're more dominant on one side or the other in your brain, you're going to be able to combine those together when you're singing, and it maximizes that learning and that information retention. So music and motor skills equals attentiveness. So I usually do in my story times, I will do a book and then I'll do a song usually, and then I would go back to like a book or an activity because I want to give them that time to move around, and they're more attentive when they've had that chance to move around. And I am still teaching them something new with the song because we do songs seasonally, but I really want them to learn how to move a little bit and to get those wiggles out so that they can also learn the vocabulary and the language, the sentence formation and stuff like that in the picture books I'm reading to them, and just be able to have fun by paying attention. So 2 minutes of jumping, stomping, and other large motor movements equals 10 minutes of capacity to sit still. So I don't ever expect my kids to sit still. It's pretty much developmentally very difficult for them to do. However, you can get them by using tools of music and things like that, you can get them to stay more attentive to you during the story time. Some other things you can do, you can use songs or books that do songs. So this one is Bing Bang Chug-a-Beep by Bill Martin Jr. I love this book, and I had a lot of my parents and kids really, is there a question? Oh, I had a lot of my parents and stuff being really attentive and actually participating through the whole thing. So I had them do clap, so bing bang, and then chugga was a rolling your hands, and then beep, they beeped their nose or they did their hand this way. And so it was just really great through the whole book. So it's to this old man, and so I'll just read this first, or sing this first part. This old car, it is blue, yellow, red, and purple too, with a bing bang chugga beep bouncing here and there. This old car goes everywhere. So we just sang through the whole thing, and every time I did bing bang chugga beep, and I slowed down for that part so they could do the clap, roll your hands, beep your nose, that kind of thing throughout the whole thing. And they did it, and everybody sang the words and everything. It was awesome. So this is a great one to use in story time. Just using those song books too kind of breaks up the monotony of just reading for yourself too, reading to the kids, and it keeps their attention a little bit better. Other ones you can do Pete the Cat, Wheels on the Bus. There's tons of Wheels on the Bus for varieties out there. You can do, Jane Cabrera has a whole set of ones that are based on old nursery rhymes or old songs. So 1, 2, buckle my shoe. She also has If You're Happy You Know It. I think she has Over in the Meadow, Old MacDonald. And then this one is Eric Lippman, so Pete the Cat people. So it's Groovy Joe, but it's If You're Groovy and You Know It, Hug a Friend. So you can sing all those, but you're also exposing them to the books. And a lot of times you'll get a lot of different vocabulary in the books with those songs because they've changed some of the vocabulary from the songs, which is really great. Other things you can do with singing is use props. So scarves, you can use bells, you can use shaky eggs, or if you have maracas, those are pretty cool. You can use sticks. This helps with the beat of like keeping a beat, but also helping them if they want to sing like, if you want to sing the ABC song, or if you want to sing a song and count the beats in the words, you can do that. You can do things with the song cube. So I just have pictures of like Row Boat, If You're Happy, You Know It, Clap Your Hands, Baba Black Sheep, Itsy Bitsy Spider, Wheels on the Bus, and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and then you can just roll it, and then whatever comes up, you guys sing. So that's kind of a fun way to choose different ones if you want to mix it up a little bit. Another thing you can do, I'm going to do a demonstration of a popcorn song with a scarf. So if you want to make your video bigger, that's fine. So it's popcorn kernels in the pot. In the pot, shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them till they pop, till they pop. So you can just really do fun, some things, and that's a cappella. That's not even with music. So it's a fun thing for them, and but they're also moving their hands smaller. They're scrunching the scarf up, which is helping that fine motor movement, and it also gets them moving along with the song, which is a great way to do that. I've got lots of. There's lots of children's music artists who are really great. Some of them like Hat Palmer, Carol Peterson, Greg and Steve, Lori Berkner, all of those, Jim Gill. So all of those great ones, they have a lot of movement and a lot of great tunes and songs and music in there that can help you if you don't like to sing a cappella. I try not to sing too much a cappella because it saves my voice. Baby time, I usually do a lot of a cappella just because it's easier to do some of the rhymes and finger plays. But I do 2 recorded songs just to give them that experience with a recorded song. Another CD too that's good is Songs for Wiggle Worms. And then so it's just really fun to kind of introduce all of that different ways. And if you don't like to sing a lot, use recorded music, sing along with it, and then they hear the recorded music more than you. But I do encourage you to sing a lot with your little ones in story time because it is really good for them and it really does help slow down that language. But also encourage those parents to sing with their children, even if they don't feel like they know how to sing. So you're teaching them songs in story time that they can take home and do, even if they don't know how to sing well. The kids aren't going to care. It's their parents' voice. So just remind them and empower them for that. I think that's a good way to really encourage the parents to keep doing stuff and to really interact with their kids, because the kids are going to start doing it more at home, especially toddlers are going to start singing the songs at home more than they are in story time. So they're absorbing it all while they're in story time, and then when they get home, they're like, oh, I want to sing this song. I've had a couple parents come up to me and go, I need the words to that finger song you do. And so it's one of Carol Peterson's songs, but like they need the words because the kids are singing it at home and they're doing the motions, but the parents are like, I don't remember all the words. And so like, I need the words. So it's just really fun to like really encourage the parents to do that at home. And it's nice when they come back and say, I need the words to this because my kid's trying to do it at home and I don't know the words. So it's a really fun experience that way. That kind of reinforces what we're doing in story time. But yeah, so sing, sing, sing.
So those are the 5 practices. These are our email addresses. Like I said, I think the handout with the book list didn't make it on there, so you just shoot us a quick email and say, could you send the book list? We'll send that on to you. OhioReadyToRead.org has a lot of resources. That's the handouts that we did include come from there. They also have a Facebook page for resources.
Yeah, it's a really good resource, even for those in Kentucky. It's a really good resource. We have a lot of like training stuff on there. We've got a lot of just links for things, and in Ohio we're doing Science of Reading, so there's a lot of information on there linking to other things. There's some Supercharged Storytime with Saroj Goding is on there, links to that, and it's a really great way to like amp up your story times or get some new ideas. Another option is Jay Brary. So okay,
so it is time for questions.
Yes, so interactive. Okay, so parent interaction. So I use technology in my story time. So I do a PowerPoint on a big screen. If you don't have that, that's okay. But I do that, and I have all the words to the songs, and every slide has what we're going to do next. So I really encourage the parents, and that's part of my expectations at the beginning. I have a slide that says, this is what I would expect from you, kind of thing. And it says, please participate with your child. And I go on and say, you are their first and best teacher, which is true. And we're only with them a short time, but you're with them a lot more. And you need to be knowing, like interacting and knowing how to do this stuff. So if you're participating with them, you're going to learn it. And so I have all the words up there, so they have no reason not to participate with me. And if I see that they're not really getting up or standing up or moving with me, then I kind of encourage them again, like, please participate with your little one, and things like that. So I usually don't have too much of a problem with people participating. I guess it's just because I do expect them to do it. I think it's the confidence that I exude. I'm like, you're going to participate kind of thing. And I try to make it fun for them too. Just by having the motions, having the cool songs, and some good songs that are fun for them to learn. And once they learn that their little ones are trying to do them at home, then they do participate because they're learning it for the little one.
I would say another practical way, if you have the things, I start my story times with rhythm sticks, and I deliberately give them to all the adults in the room. So that's just like a way of signaling, like, I'm giving your child the musical instrument and I'm giving you the instrument. So you could start with scarves or something like that and encourage that interaction. Another thing you can do, if you are like pausing to ask questions during the story, you can say, tell your grown-up the answer to this question, or like, what do you think is going to happen next? Tell your grown up. And that like kind of clues in, without having to call anyone out, and have a conflict, like just kind of clues them in, like it is going to be a time to interact. But I do think like the biggest thing is that very explicit statement at the beginning, like this is a great time for interacting with your child.
Right, and I also, my first statement is please silence or turn off your cell phones.
Yes.
I don't mind, sometimes my parents will, or my caregivers will record their little one doing something. So I don't discourage that as much, but if I see that they're not like really engaged with their little one, then I'm like, okay, I might reiterate, please silence your turn, or I might talk to them later in the after, like if there's just like one or two people that are doing it a lot, I might talk to them after the story time and take them to the side and say, hey, I really would love to have you, participate with your little one or something like that. But I really rarely have to do that if I put my expectations out there and I kind of include them, kind of like Erin said, you give them a prop, you give them something to do. And then they're like, oh, I need to do this kind of thing. And kind of minimize distractions in your room or in your area that you're using, so that there's not a lot for them to do except for to pay attention. And that helps a lot. But I do find that the screen helps a ton because they know that the words are up there, so they're not going to look silly singing the stuff, especially in library babies, because I rarely use any music. And so they have to know how to say, like they'll know the words of the rhymes. They're right there on the screen, so they can do them with me because I'm doing them all by myself if they don't. So, and the little ones aren't talking. So, so they really do. I really do encourage that a lot, starting at birth. And so I have a lot of people that continue to go up through the hierarchy of our story times, and they will know that I expect them to participate. So,
and if you don't have screen, you can always do handouts. I used to do handouts and just put them under the chairs, and then I can indicate there's a handout under your chair.
Yes, Jayberry. So Jayberry is where the popcorn song came from.
I'm gonna type in.
So yeah, jayberry.com. And it's 2 librarians from Canada, they are amazing.
I get all my songs from them. They do their songs a cappella, like on their YouTube channel. I get all my songs from them because sometimes just reading the lyrics I can't.
Yeah, so they have lots of videos. They show you how to do all the motions and everything like that.
Yes.
So Jayberry, they'll have some Storytime plans, a little bit of Storytime plans on there. But mostly what we get from them are the songs and the rhymes that they do, and knowing how to do the motions to them, because that's what stops me from using a rhyme or a song, is if I don't know there's how to do the motions with it or how to use it with a motion, because just standing there singing a song with kids doesn't work. They need to be able to move. So that's what I use Jayberry for.
They don't update a lot now, but they have tons of stuff in their archive. And then they do a list of best books of the year, and I've gotten great Storytime recommendations from them.
And they also have like scarf songs, rhythm stick songs, like songs that you can do with scarves and sticks and shakers and things like that. So they'll actually have the physical prop there, so you can see them using it and how they use it in the story time. So in the song. Any other questions? And you can always reach out to us too.
Yeah,
we always love to help give information about stuff, and I've been doing story times for 15 years. And Erin,
I've only been doing them for 2 years now, but I did a Storytime project in my graduate degree there. I watched like 60 story times and studied them for
so she's been experiencing
like story times. That's a great way to just go observe 60 stories now. I watch the video.
Well, and I highly encourage that. If you're like you're stuck in a rut, or you're newer and you're like, I don't know what to do, and go watch somebody else if you can. Go watch someone else do it. I'd been doing my own stuff for forever and really hadn't really watched anyone else do a story time for a while. And I switched branches back a little bit a while ago, and I was like, I'm going to go watch her story time. I want to see how she does it. She did it totally different than I did, but she did a great job. So it's like, but I got some really some good ideas from her, because I was like, oh, well, I never thought about doing it that way. And so it's just a really cool way to kind of spruce up your story times if you're getting kind of in a rut, or if you want to learn something new, or you want to see how someone else does it. But don't forget that everybody's different, and you all have your own personal style. Yeah. So don't ever feel like you need to compare yourself to someone else. What works for you may not work for someone else, but feel free to try things, because that's how you learn. And that's how you find something that really works well.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys being here.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. We enjoy it.
Lots of good information.
Good.
Can we get your email for that book list? It was one question here.
Yeah. Is it still on the screen?
Should be. Although, I wonder if it'll let me.
I mean, we can type it in the chat if you want.
So that,
oh, there it is.
Copy it.
Yeah. So yes, and if you don't see the book list, it's on it's a PDF, but it was from a PowerPoint, or not PowerPoint, Excel spreadsheet. So if you don't see it in the list of your handouts, just email us and we'll send it to you.